this area. Yeah, so you can put something in there that'll help you remember that this was the time that Balboa heard of this and wanted to start exploring. He wanted a waterway through it.
So, you want a waterway from the mountains?
Through this area.
What do we go for his name?
Just put Balboa. Yeah. Yeah, that's what the whole thing. Yeah. Alright. As you finish that, can I have a volunteer start reading at the top of the next page where it says why I build a canal? Go ahead.
The Panama Canal, a man-made waterway across the Peninsula of Panama, is a shortcut through the Western Hemisphere. It is only the way to get from the Pacific Ocean to the Atlantic Ocean. My ship, without going all the way around South America, sailors had dreamed of a canal through Central America since the 1500s. A canal could shorten the trip from Atlantic to the Pacific by 7,800 miles, saving both time and money, but it was not until the 1900s that engineers had the technology to make such a thing.
Alright, pause it there. So if you look down at the map at the bottom, you see the red line is where they would be able to cut through this area we're talking about. But that purplish blue line would be if they couldn't get their boats through there, they had to go all the way around South America. You see that in that little graphic at the bottom here? So it cut a lot of time off of their trip. And by cutting time off, they also saved money. Do you want to continue reading right there? Yeah.
Crossing the Itzazuma. By 1534, the Spanish had built a 7-foot wide stone road across the Itzazuma. It was used to carry treasures to the Atlantic coast for shipment to Spain. More than 300 years later, during the California Gold Rush, prospectors wanted to get from the east coast of the United States to California as quick as possible. However, there was not yet a transcontinental railroad in the United States, and travel by horse and wagon was slow and difficult, so many prospectors traveled by boat to Panama, traveled across the Itzazuma, and took another boat to California.
All right, thank you. So we're going to stop right there. And what date do we see in this paragraph?
1534.
1534. What happened then?
The Spanish built a 7-foot wide stone road.
Yep, they had the stone bridge across that big area. So it's right, the Spanish built that stone bridge across the isthmus. Now volunteer to start reading on the top of the next page. Go ahead.
The French began a canal. In 1881, when Panama was part of Colombia, a French company gained the rights to build a canal through Panama. However, the builders had to struggle with mudslides, a mountain range, and dense tropical forest. Tropical diseases killed many workers. After several years of digging and blasting, the French company went bankrupt. Work of the canal stopped. In 1902, the United States government bought the French company's equipment. Then the United States began negotiating with Colombia for the right to continue building the canal.
All right, so what happened in 1881?
A French company gained the rights to build a canal through Panama.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, and then what's down at in 1902? It's the block 1902, 1903 on your timeline. We gotta do this one box and then we can move on. Do you know what happened in 1902? There?
The United States bought the French company's equipment.
Yeah, so they took over because the French couldn't keep up with this massive project of building the Panama Canal. So do you want to keep reading?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead and read the next section once you're ready.
The new nation of Panama. Colombia refused to grant the United States the rights to build the canal. But business people in Panama thought a canal would benefit the local economy. Also, many Panamanians wanted to be free of Colombia's rule. They saw the canal as an opportunity to win independence. At the same time, President Theodore Roosevelt felt the canal was important for the United States. It would speed the travel between the Atlantic and Pacific coasts. It would also allow the American Navy to move back and forth in the case of war. Roosevelt did not wait for the events to unfold. He took action. In November 1903, the United States helped Panama revolt against Colombia. 2 weeks after Panama declared its independence, the United States received the right to build the canal.
We're going to pause right there and add to that box in the 1903 that we just read about Panama's revolting against Colombia for their freedom.
Panama's revolting for their freedom?
Yeah, so it says, in November 1903, the United States helped Panama revolt against Colombia. And then they were able to, from that, they were able to declare their independence and do what they wanted with that area. Gary? Alright, go ahead and start reading the next section.
Now, Americans face the same challenges of moving Earth and our French ethics. In addition, the project called for a dam to be built to form a road. There were locks to design and build. A lock is a section of waterway in which ships are raised or lowered by adjusting the water. While the work on the canal was difficult and slow, by far the biggest problem was disease. Some 20,000 workers had died of malaria, and yellow fever while the French worked on the canal. Scientists did not know what caused these diseases, so they could do little to prevent it. In the early 1900s, doctors discovered that malaria and yellow fever were both carried by mosquitoes. Mosquitoes breed in standing water. In 1904, the Panama Canal Company hired a doctor and a large crew to deal with the mosquito problem. It took more than a year to complete the job. Workers burned sulfur in every house to kill mosquitoes. They covered every water vessel with mesh to keep mosquitoes out. They filled in swampy breeding grounds with dirt. Without these efforts, the Panama Canal probably could not have been built. It took eight years and more than 70,000 workers, mostly Caribbean islanders, to build the Panama Canal. It remains one of the greatest engineering feats of modern times.
So this whole project was for this water, right? And so there's a lot of standing water. And if you guys have ever been around a swamp in the summer, you get eaten alive by mosquitoes, right? So that's where they like to breed. So they were carrying this disease, and all the workers were catching this disease from the mosquitoes. So it wasn't until they finally brought doctors in and could handle this problem and bring it under control that they were able to really keep the project going.
How were they giving them a disease? My dad said that sometimes you can get sick because they're stuck on people's blood or something like that, and it can get into you too.
Right, it's just from the bites. So if the mosquito was carrying the disease and you got the mosquito bite from that one, you could get that disease. And so that's what was happening to a lot of the workers. Do we have a date in this one?
Yep. Yes,
1904. What happened then? Yeah.
The Panama Canal Company hired a doctor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that was a big part of it. That was a big part that kept this project moving.
A doctor is a large crew.
Yes. Just one doctor. All right, did everyone get that 1904 box still then?
Doctors.
Hire doctors. Who would like to read next? Go ahead.
Panama and its canal.
When the United States gained the right to build a canal, it signed a treaty with Panama. The treaty gave the United States the right to build the Panama Canal and control it forever. Okay. The Canal Zone. The United States also controlled an area called the Canal Zone. The Canal Zone was an area containing the canal, the land on either side of the canal, the ports, the port cities, and the railroad. The treaty allowed the United States to govern the Canal Zone according to its laws and gave the United States the right to invade Panama to protect the canal. The United States built 14 military bases in the Canal Zone and stationed thousands of soldiers there. Many Panamanians felt the United States had too much power in Panama. For years, Panama held talks with the United States after transferring control of the canal to Panama. In the 1960s and 1970s, angry Panamanians rioted to protest American control.
And we're going to pause right there. If you turn back to page 117, at the bottom, right by where we showed that route and how it could be shortened, to the right of that, the yellow is all the Panama Canal Zone. So the United States was governing this area, even though it was like basically Panama's land, but they were in control of all of it. So then that's when they had that's when the Panamanians were like, okay, the United States has too much power here. And so that's where we're reading now. So in the 1960s and 70s, what happened? Yeah.
Panamanians rioted to protest American control.
Mm-hmm. Yep, so put that in the 1960s and 70s box there. The protest. You want to keep reading?
A change of ownership. In 1977, after years of talks, President Jimmy Carter signed 2 new treaties with Panama's government. These treaties gave Panama more control over the canal. In 1999, Panama finally gained full control of the Panama Canal.
So what do we read there? We have 2 boxes to fill in from that.
1977.
Yeah, so in 1977, President Carter decided he was going to sign these treaties with them, which led to, in 1999, what? What happened in 1999?
Panama finally gained full control of the Panama Canal.
Yeah, so they had enough of the United States controlling that area, and they made some deals with a lot of talks and took control of the Panama Canal. Yeah, so finish off those boxes, and then we'll finish off this section. Who wants to start reading at Panama Today? Go ahead.
The Panama Canal dominated life in Panama for much of the 1900s, and it became a Jewish family today. Because of the canal, Panama has become an international crossroads for trade. The ships that pass through the Panama Canal each day make always important for their goods. International trade is very helpful to Panama's economy. The canal has made Panama a leading wasteland finance center.
Yeah, so these ships didn't just get to come through here for free. They had to pay a fee every time they came through. And that money is what really helps the Panama economy. Would someone like to read the last 2 sections on page 122? Go ahead.
Panama Canal. Every day, an average of 33 ships pass through the Panama Canal. It takes each ship around 9 hours to cross from one ocean to the other. The Panama Canal is like a water elevator.
Yeah, where are we at?
You're good. You can finish that section. He was reading the graphic on the next page, which is good information, so we'll finish that off. The next page. You're fine.
Okay. The Panama Canal is like a water elevator with like ships are raised and lowered in the locks as they travel from one ocean to the other.
Yeah. That's good information.
Traffic through the canal is also encouraged warehousing and manufacturing. Many factories in Panama are similar to in Mexico. They have several parts imported from abroad, and then they export finished products. Materials for these factories come from Hong Kong and the United States and Japan. as well as other countries. Most finished products are shipped to Latin American nations or are sold within Panama itself. Panama is also a communication hub. International fiber optic networks cross through Panama. Some fiber optic networks are used for long-distance telephone lines and computer networks.
Alright, someone want to read that last section of tourism?
Tourism. Another important industry in Panama is tourism. Many tourists come to travel through the canal. They also visit Panama rainforest. Look at the map in the country profile on page 118 to see how much of Panama is covered by rainforest. Tourism in unspoiled areas to observe wildlife and learn about the environment is called ecotourism. Come to see the wide variety of plants and animals in my rainforest. These include howler monkeys, sloths, harpy eagles, and cabras.
Yeah, animals we don't have in this.
Huge ones that look like Olympics. Panama's government has recently invested millions of dollars to promote tourism in its country.
All right, thank you. So we are going to give this little organizer to you. There's 3 sections of it with 5 points for each. We have challenges, advantages, and just some interesting facts. So you're going to have a little while to work on this. You can keep your timeline out if you need.
I've seen some other canal ones, but like, you know how they're talking about how those levels, like how ships get through, you know how they lower the front, and I'm watching this like that, like lower the water.
Yeah.
Like little things with the skins.
Okay, can I pay attention again real quick? Okay, so you're going to work on this individually or like just with the person right by you, so you're going to be working quietly. But first, I want to give you a little example of the kind of things that should go in these. In challenges, we talked about the mosquitoes and the diseases that they bring. So in challenges, I might write diseases like malaria and yellow fever. That might be one that I'm writing there. So if you want to start by writing that in your challenges column, you can go ahead and do that. And then if we move across to the advantages column, we talked about how they save time going through there rather than all the way around South America on that map we saw at the beginning. So that's a big advantage is the time that they saved by cutting that, what did it say, how much was it?
7,000 miles?
Yeah, 7,800 miles shorter. So that's a lot. So that's a big advantage. And then interesting facts is just anything else that you remember from this section that you find particularly interesting. So go ahead and finish those quietly. If you have any questions, raise your hand. And when you're done with it, raise your hand and I'll tell you what's next. It'll be what you don't think.
What? I think it's spelled like that. Yeah, right.
Challenges. Harry put diseases.
That was in the songs though. Isn't it like a or something? Sickness.
Oh, we didn't.
Probably like
Wait, what?
Perfect, actually, but the result of it.
oh, it is a table.
If you could do me a favor and put your timeline somewhere on your desk, I'm just gonna come around and take pictures of it so you can keep it, but I can see your work. Yes. It was. Yeah. And then remember we were talking about all that.
Cheerios.
Wasn't it hard work?
I don't know, like. Because that was the cover now. Or you could just list both of those together. Yeah. And you can go back on and talk before.
Make it funny by the weight.
They make it.
For my own purpose.
What do you do this for one challenges. Oh, challenges. Extra time. Make a double. Okay. You put money in right there. Money right there. Balance Some people watch those for like 4 hours.
Like picture this.
Yeah, medium. They take all the colors. They take all the we need to fill the entire video?
Yeah, 5 in each one. Talk with your neighbors, get some more ideas.
That holds so. It built a way for Vinci so you could get some places faster. That's actually I know. I was getting on the seat that.
From the beginning, because their project
Me and Jack did both. Me and Jack did A and B. We had to work all the time. To make sure you get
Realize how you embraced. That one was like a good thing.
Oh wait. Jimmy, I need two more interesting facts. Jimmy Carter signed two peace treaties. Oh, that
looking good.
I keep finding these
In this barrel.
They stayed in the
They had no money. It was a mudslide. It was a mudslide that was
Yeah, exactly.
It helps you transport treasure. I do what I want. I always like the one boat right there in my head. Remember? I need another advantage. I need 3 more advantages. I need 2 more advantages and 1 more. I need 3 more advantages.
Well, you gotta open your book. My biggest start.
He shut it. I keep finding more advantages. I need 1 more advantage.
Is everything about
That was actually
Yeah. Look in here. Yep, right here. There. That's a big advantage from the Panama
Eat one more.
Oh my God, here. Yeah.
They built 14 military bases in one. That's a challenge. That's an advantage. I'm a winner. I had no equipment.
Red wine.
We won
Alright, I'm gonna take a picture of you. And then I have another task for you.
Oh yeah. That was so sad.
You were there.
No, I wasn't that.
So, okay, now flip these over.
I'm gonna put it in a book.
So you're gonna do that. You're gonna do that for the first part. No, it's on the back of that chart. I want you to together. Go to this little on page 117. There's a little like infer question. I want you to answer that. And then there's another. Yeah, so just read through this whole section. Yeah, so, yep. Yeah, so.
Oh my God.
Alright,
I got it. Wait. Are
they scary? Well, you already saw
go ahead and yeah. I want you to, on the back, flip it over. There's a question on page 117 right here. It says, it's like infer. Go ahead and answer that. Alright, so we're gonna Alright, we are going to play a short video. And so you can continue filling this out. It's a lot of the same information, kind of presented in a different way with a few more interesting facts. So you can keep filling your worksheet out. What you don't finish of this 3-column worksheet will be homework.
what worksheet?
The 3-column worksheet. This one, what you don't finish before the end of class, take home and finish. Yeah.
Take on another engineering challenge that most can. 35 years later, America would take on another engineering challenge that most consider impossible. But if it weren't for a 1-cent postage stamp, the world's most impressive canal would have been built a long way from Panama. The Panama Canal is a miraculous feat of engineering, fulfilling a 400-year-old dream of linking two great oceans. Building it seems impossible, moving 260 million tons of earth through jungles, swamps, and mountains, working up to 50,000 people at one time. But it was finished ahead of schedule and under budget. Today, 14,000 ships a year make the 9-hour pass. The facts are stunning. So, let's get the scoop on the fiction.
The Panama Canal has been considered one of the 10 new wonders of the world. And that's certainly the way all of us who worked there felt about it.
The familiar story goes like this. In 1904, America digs in, taking the reins of a monumental project that France began in 1880, forced to abandon. A sea-level canal running east to west across the Isthmus of Panama. The canal's location is a no-brainer, since the 50-mile wide isthmus is the narrowest land bridge separating the Atlantic and the Pacific. But when the canal is completed in 1914, the achievement hits the front pages of every newspaper, as the world finally has an invaluable commercial shortcut. That story has enough holes in it to sink a cargo ship, starting with the idea that the canal is simply a big ditch.
They called it that when they constructed it, the big ditch, but it's much more elaborate, it's much more technologically savvy than that.
When a ship enters the Panama Canal, a series of gargantuan locks lift it like a watery staircase, 85 feet above sea level. This allows it to sail through the mountainous spine of the Panama Isthmus. Here, the canal features its biggest surprise. Not a canal at all, but a huge 22-mile-long artificial lake.
Jackson Lake is almost half the canal, so basically you're going on a lake for about half of it, and then you finally hit the Pacific side, you go through the cut, and then you step down 85 feet into the Pacific Ocean.
And the ships passing through these impressive locks travel east and west along the canal. Right? Odd as it seems, the canal actually runs north and south, as it cuts across Panama's S-shaped landmass. And a ship entering the canal from the Atlantic actually travels 27 miles east by the time it exits in the Pacific. And how about the idea that picking Panama as the canal's location was a no-brainer? Dig this. As late as 1902, 2 years before construction began, just about everyone expected the canal to be built in Nicaragua.
Most were in favor of Nicaragua. It's more friendly landscape, it's closer to the United States by several hundred miles. You had a very friendly Nicaraguan government that we had made by 1902 6 treaties with. They're ready, they want us there.
Nicaragua also has clear physical advantages, including lower mountains and a natural lake and river that would help ease excavation.
Even right up to days before the vote in Congress, you got the vast majority of congressmen prepared to vote for the Nicaragua Canal. That seems like a done deal. So why did they pick that?
You've probably heard that Teddy Roosevelt was a driving force behind the canal in Panama. But it's very likely we'd have a canal through Nicaragua, not for a wily Frenchman and a postage stamp. From 1884 to 1889, engineer Philippe Bournavria was part of the failed French effort to build a canal in Panama. In 1902, he's still heavily invested and stands to make a pile of money if the Americans choose Panama and buy the French plans and equipment. Then, a month before the congressional vote, a A volcanic eruption on the Caribbean island of Martinique killed 30,000. And that gives the Frenchman an idea.
Maria remembers a stamp that the Nicaraguan government had produced 2 years earlier. It showed a Nicaraguan port, and in the background, there's a volcano, and it has smoke spewing out of it.
Maria sends the stamp to each of the 90 U.S. senators, hoping to play on their fears to sway the vote. Although Nicaragua's 19 volcanoes haven't had a major eruption for centuries, the fact that several of them are so close to the construction site is enough to throw a scare into a majority of the senators.
The Senate, it's going to be a 42-34 vote for campaign. In the House, it's even more dramatic. It's like 252-78 in favor of campaign.
So in 1904, the vote in and the treaty with Panama signed, America digs into one of the most massive and challenging engineering projects the world has ever seen.
Alright, so I have what you don't finish. Go ahead and finish at home, and it'll get collected next time. So just hang on to your papers. The little half sheets I gave you, you can just fill those out and hand them to me on your way out the door. So just wrap everything up.